Hey gang, what is going on? And welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us we have it's an older CJRB, but it's one I really like, and I like it primarily because of the blade shape and the recoil lock. I've done a couple of recoil lock knives before. I just wanted to bring this forward. So this is the kicker. It is the 1915, the J 1915 by CJRB, and it's just a great budget-friendly, fidget-friendly, super interesting knife. Now, this is one of their older designs, so it's flat side G10, right? It's got relatively thick liners. It's got a G10 backspacer. It has this awesome recoil lock, which you can use with one finger, or you can use with two fingers. And I like that. It makes a little noise because it rides on the liners here, but it is just locked up so tight. Now, it is a kind of a bar style lock. If you're fond of the Axis style lock or the Able style lock, right? These two, you're going to love this because it works the same way. It's just a different design. In fact, it is a design wholly unique to the designers over at Artisan that are in charge of CJRB, and the recoil lock is just a ton of fun. Now, that aside, this is just an excellent carry in D2. This is a marvelous blade shape for everyday carry use. Now, it does have a lot of flipper, but that's, well, you kind of have to, right? It's got to clear all of this weight. But there's still nice belly. You can get it down onto the table before it appears the front, before the flipper hits. This is marvelous for push cuts. Good for draw cuts, right? It really is. And I suppose if you needed to, it's got enough tip on it. Well, yeah, anyway. So, these are reasonably inexpensive. Somewhere in the mid-40s, range, which is very, very reasonable. It has an excellent pocket clip. Let's see if I can get that to show up on camera a little bit. There it is. Because they've got flush-mounted screws, and it is swappable. And because this is entirely ambidextrous, this is a fully ambidextrous knife, which means there is a ton of lefty love here if you wanted to do that, which is a really nice feature. A lot of knives that have traditional locks, liner locks, frame lock, button lock, so on and so forth, you may be able to flip the clip, but you cannot flip the deployment or locking mechanism. And on the recoil lock here, much like on the Axis lock, it's entirely left or right hand friendly, which is super cool. Because this has such heavy liners, it's not a light knife, but really, are we backpacking? Are we? A few ounces one way or the other in most of our lives doesn't make that much difference. And so for, $40 or $50, whatever these things come in at these days, you get just an interesting knife with an unfailing action, a unique lock, even though it's a sort of a modified version of an existing lock. Really nice ergos. Now, even though this is kind of square, this shape just lends itself to being gripped really well. You could work with this knife all day long, and because this is such a good lockup for your hand, the fact that there's no jimping, right, is really not a big deal. You can close this knife one-handed. It's got just enough of a lip here. See, you can pull that back. Well, when I have room to flip it. In short, I love this lock. Now, they've recently released the Crag and a couple of other familiar CJRBs with this new recoil lock, and I hope they keep that up, because it separates them from the myriad of other, sort of D2 and G10 knives that are going on out there. This makes it just a little different and a little more interesting. Now, again, this is one of their older designs. When I talked to Russell, he was like, yeah, that's an old design. But here's the thing. Older in the knife community means a year, 6 months. The velocity at which knives come out now from any company is simply astonishing. So even though this is an older design, if you were looking for a workhorse, something to carry in a job that requires cutting, where D2 done well and Artisan/CJRB does their D2 very well, you know this is going to hold an edge when you need it to. Now, because it's D2, you're going to need to take care of it a little bit. If you work in a water slide park, I guess, D2 is not the steel for you. If you work on the beach, it might not be the steel to you, but for you, or the swamps, I suppose, too. But for most of us, you know, it's going to rust instantly with a little rain or a little pocket sweat, but you're going to want to take care of it, keep it clean, dry it off when you get home, and you will have a lifetime of really good service. And again, I'm just in love with this blade shape. I just am. It's such a great knife to carry. I've had this now for a while. Whenever I drop this thing in my pocket and I am tasked with cutting, usually cardboard, I mean, let's be honest, but even food, it has been a very, very useful tool, and I very much enjoy having it around. So let's get some specs out of the way. The CJRB kicker here has a 1, 2, 3, just shy of 3 1/4 inches of cutting on 1, 2, 3 1/2 inches of their excellent D2. The grip area from just behind the choil, 1, 2, 3, 4 1/8 inches of overall grip. This is a long knife, so you got big hands, it's going to serve you really well. Because of the swell, if you have smaller hands, it's still going to give you a really nice place to grip. It is a well-sorted and well-thought-out knife. Overall length, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 1/4 inches long, so full size. By way of comparison, here is against the absolutely full-size Benchmade Presidio. And if we line up the blades, you can see that the Presidio is just a little bigger, but not much. Here it is against the Rat 1. Again, it is smaller than a Rat 1, but you get more cutting, right? So take your pick. And for our small knives comparison today, we're going to put it up against the Civivi Ortis. You know, competitive company. Their knives either come in 9CR, 9CR18 MOV or D2. And of course, here it is against the Bug Out. So it's bigger than these, smaller than those. It's just a good, I don't know, it's not a huge knife. It's not a small knife, but it's not an enormous knife either. I said it's not a lightweight. Let's see what that means. .6 ounces. I'm wrong. It's not that heavy, considering how big it is overall. I think that what I'm experiencing is I've become so accustomed to really knock down, and now don't get me wrong, these aren't sharp, but the flat slab, I think I've become so accustomed to knives that have a rounded handle that the way that sits in hand, it has a weight, but it's not actually that heavy. I love that. Good for me for being wrong. If I was perfect, I would have a job that paid me a lot of money. Anyway, this is the CJRB kicker. It is an older model from CJRB. It has an excellent lock on it. It is a fun knife to carry and use. If you have any questions about this or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.